Chaliye, let's start. Good evening, Nisha ji. Good evening, Vinod sir. So what are we doing today? It's very simple. Hi, Advait. Right? Hello, Suraj Bete. So we're going to go ahead with financial analysis. So if you realize, I the last session by dear colleague, right? Sir talked about, if I understood his flow correct, and you are free to have your own flow. Sir said profit to cash flow to value, value to valuations, right? That's perfect. That's perfect. I believe, and again, please, it's just my thought process. It is value first, right? So you should have a value proposition. Why would a customer come to you? Because you should have a value proposition. Now, once you have it, you need to communicate it. You need to communicate it to all the customers. You need to create delight. But first, according to me, your product should have some basic value. Then from there, you should see whether you're making profit or not. So that's the second part. Many a times young friends come to me and say that we've got a great plan, and which we want to execute it. That's good, absolutely fine, Nisha. You all of us have great plans, but one simple question that anybody would ask is, is the customer ready to pay for it? You are solving a customer's pain point. If he's ready to pay for it and you're making a profit, then it makes sense. Maybe for example, there are so many things that we have tried in India, and they come back saying, no, we are happy with Excel is good enough, right? Till now Zoho has broken it extremely well. So one, value proposition, addressing the customer's pain point. Second, the customer should be ready to pay you for that. Then cash flow, then valuation. So what I plan to do is, after Monday's session, I said, let me take up this session and then talk to you all about financial statements, and then take you all through DuPont analysis, which is a very very famous analysis that we do in management consulting, figuring out how a company is doing. So what I'll quickly do is, I'm sure all of you are aware of financial statements, but I'd still like to recap it once, just in case, right? You need a brush up. So first thing is, if I ask a basic question, right, which you already answered, why does any firm exist? And that was answered last time, okay, by you all, that exists to make profits. Now, my question to all of you all is, why is it called profit and loss statement? Why is it called profit and loss statement? It could be technically called profit or loss statement, because ultimately you either make a profit or you make a loss. Why should it be called and profit and loss statement? Any guesses? Otherwise, Monet, is business typically single product? Now you told me that your closest friend Varun has started a good restaurant. God bless, all the very best. Does he sell only one product or does he sell multi products?
So as of now, he has taken an outlet of Jockey, the brand name Jockey. So he's only selling what is manufactured by Jockey.
No, no, one sec. So does Jockey Jockey manufacture a single product or does it manufacture multiple products?
So multiple products.
Correct. And that is a clue for all of us. Sometimes in some products you make good profits. In some products you may make a loss. That's why it is called as profit and loss statement. Please note, I just took product as an example. Nisha, do you, since you are in the business of books, do you get a steady stream of customers across all months, bache? No, okay, ठीक है. Which is where extremely important to understand that you can also categorize a profit and loss statement time wise. You can do that. And suddenly you realize in some months, as Nisha is saying that, wonderful, but you'll make good profits. Some months you may not. So profit and loss statement is a consolidated statement. What you should ask for is a breakup. We call this as segmental reporting. Unfortunately, in business, the first thing that we have failed to realize is Pareto principle. which is called as the 20-80 principle. 20% of your segments contributes to 80% of your profits. Now, this could be regions, segments could be regions, segments could be time, segments could be products. Can you give me one last example of now that, right, I'm in the chat, you could chat or open up, no problem, right? One more example. Karamveer has typed and indicated customer. Absolutely right. For some reason, I felt you would answer this, and that is the answer. That's why we do what is known as customer acquisitions. Some customers, see, unless you have a fixed fee, okay, and you have a fixed payment term, then maybe that analysis is not going to be worthwhile. But most cases, that is not the case. So some customers may buy in bulk, they will take a uh, different price from you, they may have a different price term for you. And that is where I would encourage you all to read up something which is called as customer life cycle value. So please understand, this is a wonderful concept, and I conclude the first part of my discussion. What is customer life cycle value is basically, don't look at only the beginning price. So for example, he's buying a car. Don't look at only the price of the car that he's paying. Also, please factor in the fact that the customer may come back to you for spares, for servicing, etc. Right. So this is a wonderful research that's done by Harvard by saying that, if you can look at some businesses, you may not be able to. Most businesses, you can do it. Customer life cycle value. First point, welcome to profit and loss statement. The word and is because it is consolidated. Ask for segmental reporting. Having said that, now I'll go back to the format. I'll take your questions in just 2 minutes. I'll finish the P&L and then it'll be a pleasure to take up your questions. So sales less COGS. COGS is cost of goods sold, less miscellaneous expenses, less selling and distribution expenses. So now let's look at somebody like Dr. Vinod Nair. Of course, sir would not like me to call it as sales, so I'll put it as income. Okay. Less any specific expense that sir has to incur. Selling and distribution, in sir's case, that will be zero, unless, right, sir employs surrogate, right, which many doctors do, but no. Less admin expenses. Okay. So if you have a person who manages your diary and gives appointment, maybe that comes in here. What would be this sales? This income will be of what would be the basic income? There will be two types of income. I'm stepping on something very controversial here, but it's okay. Main income and other income. Now, what is this difference between main income and other income is? Please understand, main income is the income for which the company is formed. Since I took sir's name, and again, I'm not talking about Dr. Vinod Nair at all now. I'm talking about a doctor. Okay. Main income would be consultation fees. Other income could be a referral fee. And I'll stop this right beyond this, because it's not fair for me to take it forward. We have all heard some horror stories there, but I'm not getting there at all. Okay. Please understand, both of them are recurring income. Both of them are recurring income. Many of us actually say that, other income is non-recurring. That's also one way of doing it. In fact, certain firms, I have been told to do that. I have followed it also. But I personally believe that both are recurring income. And if you have a non-recurring income, then it should be one-time income here. This is my personal take on this topic. So for example, manufacturing company, sale of scrap will come here. Sale of products is main income. Sale of scrap, it's a regular happening thing, once in 3 months, once in 4 months. Other income, maybe, right, they have sold some real estate and relocated their plant. That is one-time income. That is definitely not recurring income. So please understand, many people don't even consider this when they analyze. The one-time income, why should we even consider? I leave it to your judgment, what should be done. I don't want to get there. But interest should definitely be considered. Why? Because even if it is other income, I think that interest has come because of the cash balances that the company has. So even many people go one step forward and say, no, no, let's not include interest also. That's wrong. That is not fair. It's a manufacturing company. See, that logic is right, but please understand, if you note the way we look at things, anything which is recurring, we will take it as income. And for companies such as Reliance Industries, one third of their one third of their income comes from treasury operations. So this becomes very critical. Having said this, remove all this expenses, you come to EBITDA. Please note this jargon and feel free to ask me any questions. EBITDA. EBITDA stands for earnings before interest, tax, depreciation, and amortization. So these are all the basic expenses. Once you remove all these basic expenses, let's say this is 200, this all works to 150, this will become 50. So EBITDA is 50. According to me, the first milestone in any business should be that you should be EBITDA positive. So that should be the first milestone in business, that you should be EBITDA positive. So if you're EBITDA negative, that means you're not even earning enough income to support your basic expenses, and remaining expenses are yet to come. So please understand, first milestone in business is be EBITDA positive. If you're not EBITDA positive, you have to relook at your business model. Maybe if you are in a business model where there are investors supporting you and saying, for the first 5 months you make loss, we have no problems. For the first 10 years you make loss. 10 years is too much of an exaggeration. For the next 5 years only, we'll stop at 5 only. Not months this time. I'm saying 5 years you make losses. SoftBank has done that with Flipkart. Then makes sense. Then it is okay if EBITDA is negative because you have an investor who's ready to back you up with money. So that explains why a lot of tech companies are still making losses because they have investors who believe that okay, no problem, let them continue making losses. Eventually, they will achieve break even. So please understand what is break even. Break even is no profit, no loss. Break even is no profit, no loss. Let's come here straight here. It means this is zero. It means this is zero. Bottom line is zero. Many of us confuse break even with payback period. That's not right. Break even is an operating concept. Sir, I earn 200 rupees, I spend 200 rupees. No profit, no loss. Please understand this. Well, when you say payback, that is more of a capital expenditure thing. What is it that you earn 200? How much did you spend? 150. So 50 is your profit. Okay, good. How much did you invest? 100. Oh, so 2 years is your payback. So that's one logic. So payback, many of us believe it is same as break even. It is not. Break even, I repeat again, is a pure operating concept. While payback is more of a capex concept. Capex is capital expenditure. It's more of a capital budgeting thing. How fast are you able to recover your money? It's a measure of returns. Now we'll come to ROI and ROE later. Just now we will say it's a measure of returns. So I'll take a pause here. It will be a pleasure to take questions. I've come till EBITDA. I have not done depreciation and amortization, which I'll do shortly. I've explained the 3 milestones of business. I hope I've clearly explained the difference between break even and payback, right? It'll be a pleasure to take up any questions at this stage.
Sir, do you mind explaining that last point once again about the payback?
See, for example, we'll go back to same example that you said and don't give me exact numbers. Assuming that dear friend of ours, he has spent 1 crore in furnishing that shop and total expenses is 1 crore. Let's assume that in a year, okay, in a year, he is expected to make a profit of, okay, 25 lakhs, okay, 25 lakhs. How long will it take for him, Monet, to recover his 1 crore?
So 4 years.
Thank you, Monet. That is payback. The payback is recovery of your investment. It happens only once you make profit. So it is once you are above break even point. Break even means no profit, no loss.
So basically, payback is the time required to achieve profit.
The time required to, Monet, one sec. Time required to is correct. To recover your capital. Again, let me explain. Let's say uh, there is an expense in that shop every year of 50 lakhs. Income is also 50 lakhs. What is the profit? Income is 50, expense also is 50. What's the profit?
No profit, but the capital is left uncovered.
Correct. So this is break even concept. But we don't do business for break even, no? So let's
Okay, yeah,
say,
right.
right, now you're getting it, right? Wait. Let me make it even more clear for you, Mona. Now, let's
Mm-hmm.
say by some good means, the business has gone up to 75 lakhs, expense remaining 50 lakhs. Now, what is the profit?
So profit is 25 lakhs,
Correct. It's
and
above
the
break even now. You got the
yeah,
concept.
yeah,
Now we
right.
will talk about payback. How much have you invested?
Okay,
1 crore. So, what
one
is the
crore.
payback?
So payback is we like 75 is yet to be covered.
75 lakhs is yet to be covered is one way of putting it, which is very, very good. Another way of putting it is assuming 25 lakhs is earned every year, payback will be 4 years. The way you said it the
Okay, sir.
first time, payback will be 4 years.
Understood. Understood, sir.
Sure?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
Pleasure. So please do not interchange break even and payback. It's not fair. Break even, I repeat, I'm open right any number of times for a clarification. Break even is an operating concept. No profit, no loss. Payback comes only when you make profit, when you are above break even point. All set, all of you all. Can I go to depreciation, amortization? Any questions? Anybody? Done. Okay. I'm continuing with your permission, colleagues. So here we go. So now we understood EBITDA, we understood break even, right? A dear colleague, right, got it very clear by making me repeat again, which is good. Now I want to explain what is depreciation and amortization. So please understand, dear colleagues, why do we have EBITDA? See, EBITDA is because you can always uh, assign responsibility, EBITDA wise, division wise. And then you treat depreciation and amortization separately. Why do you say them separately? Is they are non-cash expenses. Depreciation and amortization are non-cash expenses. You don't pay anybody depreciation. You don't pay anybody amortization. What is depreciation? Depreciation is loss of value due to wear and tear and passage of time of tangible assets. Check it out, no? For example, you buy a car worth 10 lakhs and try and sell it after 1 year. You will not get 10 lakhs, you will get 9 lakhs, even if you have not used it much. Why? For a simple reason, the car has depreciated. So, depreciation is loss of value due to wear and tear and passage of time. Please note, nobody is being paid 1 lakh. The value has depreciated, the value has come down, which is why we call it as non cash expenses. Nobody is paying that amount. Now you'll say, what is amortization? What depreciation is for tangible assets, amortization is for intangible assets. Simple. So if you look at numbers, right, and here possibly Gani can help us, right? If you look at numbers which comes from developed countries, you will see many of them on their balance sheets have a lot of stress on intangible assets. And typically, Indians, and nothing wrong, we tend to focus a lot more on tangible assets, real estate, building. Very, very soon, and in fact, not very soon, in fact, has started, this change has started where a lot of developing countries also have realized that the next wave of valuation is going to come from intangible assets. Maybe that patent which is going to generate cash flows, or a brand which can give you a higher premium in the market, or a formula which you do not like to disclose to others. And I personally, I've seen that with many companies. Now they're very guarded of their intangible assets. They know that is their strength. Having said that, remove from EBITDA, you remove DNA. That's it. You remove DNA, this part goes. What remains is EBIT. That's come here. Less interest. Remove that interest from your EBIT and you come to EBT. EBT stands for earning before tax. Less taxes. And this is where it becomes tricky. Tax avoidance is perfectly legal. You could practice something to avoid taxes, it's good, not to evade taxes. Okay, so the law says that if you're legally avoiding taxes, we have no problems, right? Like for personal finance, section 80C, that's a perfectly legitimate way of not paying taxes, right? Government says, okay, if you're investing in some equity linked savings scheme, we are okay with that. Don't pay us that tax, 1.5 lakhs. Okay, did you purchase a house? Okay, that interest you can reduce up to 2 lakhs from your taxable income, section 24. So these are all tax avoidance strategies. Having said that, if any one of you all are going to practice tax avoidance strategies, my humble request is please focus and talk to your legal advisor and chartered accountant and then do it. Because I see this government, okay, I see not this, the earlier government also, UPA and NDA both, there are a lot of flip-flops in tax avoidance. A lot of flip-flops in tax avoidance. So if you believe you're doing something legal, please take a, please be 100% sure before you go and adopt it. Evasion is ruled out. Evasion is illegal. There's nothing to discuss there. You remove EBT less taxes, you come to what is called as earning after tax, which is also called as PAT. It's also called as earnings. Now, from there you pay dividends, which is distribution of profits. So you give back the money to shareholders. Let's say this is PAT is, I will open up myself to questions, 150. Dividends is, I pay 50. So out of 150, 50 is paid. The balance 100 is shareholders funds only. Where will it go? It will go to the balance sheet on the equity side. But I'll wait for balance sheet now, equity side. I'll just again explain 150 minus 50, 100 is retained earnings. We'll just stop at this point of time. There'll be a pleasure to take up any questions till here, please. Because that completes my P&L statement. Any questions? I'll quickly show you what we did. Income, less expenses gives EBITDA. I gave the 3 milestones, right? Explained break-even and payback difference. I have not touched ROI, which we will do later. Then I explained the difference between depreciation, amortization. Similarities, both are non-cash expense. Then we said interest. Then we said taxes, EBT less taxes. We arrived at bottom line. This is where the entire analysis is. Oh, what is the bottom line of the company? I'll stop here. It'd be a pleasure to take up any questions, please. Anything that you would like to ask at this stage, please. Anything that you would like to ask. So for valuation, why is GP more important? Karamveer Bete. Okay. Right. For valuation, why is GP more important than NP? No, Bete. Right. I'll answer this, Vinod sir. Right. No. For valuation, NP is as equally important as GP. NP, welcome back, Gani. NP is more important according to me than GP, but starting point, Karamveer Bete, is gross profit. So क्या है sales minus COGS, gross profit, starting point. But if you ask me valuation, Karamveer Bache, NP, definitely we look at net profit margins. We definitely look at net profit margins. I repeat, starting point can be GP, but eventually you have to move. Eventually you have to move to NP. Did I answer that question, Karamveer? Yes, God bless. Is reputation and intangible asset, right? Sir, does that reputation give you a brand premium? Then yes, then you can possibly say that's an intangible asset in English, but it is not captured in the financial balance sheet. It is not captured in the financial balance sheet. So, right, many people say, we have a great reputation. Good. We will capture that in the sale price when you can sell it at a premium. But have you, sorry, after asking this, right, we can ask the promoter, have you registered anything in lieu of your reputation? Yes, then possibly we can talk about it, right? You have registered a brand, okay, trademark, then yes. Otherwise, right? Many people say we have a lot of reputation. No, no, no. Unless it convert, one, it has to be registered. Second, it has to convert to a premium somewhere, some benefit to the company. Amitji, what will be the effect of investment made for available tax benefit? Amitji, the benefit of investment made is clear that it will help you in depreciation, and depreciation will help you uh, reduce your taxes. Depreciation will help you reduce your taxes. So, what is the effect of investment made? Typically, is it reduces your taxable income, right, by proportion of depreciation. And the depreciation rate, all of you all please note, right? Let's go back here. You can see it here itself. The depreciation rate is defined by the Companies Act. Like for example, here, good queries. Thank you, Vinod sir. And thank you, Amitji. This is 120. This is 10. So immediately 120 minus 10. This is now become 110. This depreciation less, let's say 0, right, gives you 110. Oh. Now taxes, right? The tax is on 110. So what depreciation has done is it has acted as a tax shield. Depreciation has acted as a tax shield. So what does an investment do? Typically, an investment helps you, capital investment helps you get depreciation as a tax shield. What effect will the tax save due to depreciation will have on P&L? Yeah. So in our case, right, Amitji, you could clearly see instead of paying taxes on 120, you're paying taxes on 110. So that entire 10 is helping you save taxes. 10 multiplied with the tax rate. So if your tax rate is, let's say 30%, right, straight away it is helping you save that 10 into 30%. That amount is clearly saved off, right? So anything, please note, dear colleagues, anything which is pre-tax, anything which goes here, pre-tax helps in saving taxes. Similarly, why many companies actually, they say we like to use debt, very dangerous strategy, because they say interest is a tax shield. So any amount of interest that we are paying, again, same thing. If you take 120 here, let's keep this as 0 this time. This is 120. Let's take this as 10. Immediately this comes to 110. So anything which is before this, it's called as pre-tax. It helps in reducing your tax liability, right? And if it helps you reduce your tax liability, it means government is sharing that much of your expense. Government is sharing that much of your expense, right? And what is that? How much? That depends on the tax rate. That depends on the tax rate. Having said that, please note, dear colleagues, now we go on to balance sheet. The moment you say balance sheet, for example, here we said 100 is the retained earnings. Where will that go? That will go to the balance sheet. Where in balance sheet? It will go to sources of funds. It will go to sources of funds. In sources of funds, there are two types, debt and equity. Now, what is debt? Debt is outside funds. So you borrow from a bank, you borrow from your friends. Outside means you have to return back the money. And sometimes, more often than not, you have to service that. Equity is owner's funds. Now, it's a owner's money, right? Now, please note this 100, which was shareholders' funds, is going to come and increase the equity. So that money is not paid out to shareholders, no? So actually, the money to shareholders should have been 150. But you paid only 50 to them. The balance 100 also belongs to shareholders. It will come here and reflect in equity under the subheading of reserves and surplus. The word surplus means what remains after payment of dividend. So you'll see in good companies over a period of time, this reserves and surplus keeps going up. Why? Because of this factor, retained earnings. It keeps going on and up, right? Good companies, right? Now, this is the balance sheet liability side. Now, before that, let me also tell you, whenever you say balance sheet, imagine there are three principles, okay? Very three principles. One, imagine the company to be an artificial person. That's the first principle. Imagine the company to be an artificial person. So XYZ Limited is an artificial person. Visualize it like that. Liabilities are sources of funds for the artificial person. From where are they bringing in that money? Assets are application of funds by the artificial person. Where is this company applying that money? So imagine the company to be an artificial person. Are you saying Google Inc? Google Inc is an artificial person. Liabilities. From where are they raising that money? Where is this company raising their money? Of course, it will be debt and equity, borrow or own funds of promoters and shareholders, right? And where are they applying that money? Apply assets. So imagine the company to be an artificial person. So visualize the company to be an artificial person. Liabilities are sources of funds. From where is this company raising the money? Assets are application of funds by the artificial person. Assets are application of funds by the artificial person. Where is this artificial person applying that money? Obviously, the artificial person will apply money in fixed assets, land, building, plant and machinery, furniture and fixtures. Second thing, what we would do is you and I, when we have surplus money, what do? We invest. So company also invests. Third thing, the company can invest in working capital assets. These are assets which are needed for day-to-day running of the company, or they may have intangible assets, as I explained, trademarks, patents, etc. Or it may invest the money, it may apply the money in some miscellaneous assets, which is company specific. So once again, three principles. Imagine the company to be an artificial person. Liabilities are sources of funds for the artificial person. Assets are application of funds by the artificial person. Period. That's all. Once you get these three principles, then you can easily understand, oh, yeah, how, even if I am buying a house, how do I buy it? Either I borrow and some part of my own money. Here it is. You borrow some part of your own money. Great. Your asset side will be your house. In the company side, it will be fixed assets, investments, working capital, raw materials, etc., working capital, and finally, intangible assets, which increasingly, I said, I'm repeat for the second time today, increasingly is now getting more popular, right? And miscellaneous assets, I've just put it here, which is industry specific. Welcome to balance sheet. And why is it called balance sheet? Finally, it should balance. Liabilities and assets should balance. And that's common sense, no? Sources and assets should always balance. That's the logic. Sources and assets should always balance. Sources and application should balance. Liabilities and assets should balance. Simple. If you're buying a house worth 1 crore, 80 lakhs debt, 20 lakhs of your own money, 80 plus 20 equal to 100. A house is also worth 100 lakhs, period. Please get this format right. It'll be a pleasure to take up any questions here, right? The tempo, now that you have got two statements ready, now you can easily apply what is called as DuPont analysis. You can easily apply what is called as DuPont analysis. So first thing first, dear colleagues, what is DuPont trying to say? So you see, our esteemed speaker used this word, which I tweaked a bit: value to profit and loss to balance, profit and loss to cash flow to valuation. Now, what is this cash flow? Cash flow is nothing but essentially the cash that the company has at any point of time. And it is governed by very simple principles. If cash comes in, the cash balance will go up, but that is again logical. So if you buy any asset, you're going to spend cash, your cash will go down. Similarly, if you invest somewhere, your money is going to go out, cash is going to come down. One sec. Did you say you sold your investment? Oh, so it is a disinvestment. Huh? So if you have sold your investment, money comes in, cash goes up. So typically when you say cash, what is being said by most valuation experts today is that any company which is sitting on cash, especially more so in today's challenging times, can really have a better valuation. For that, that's absolutely right, no doubt. But before we go on with that argument, please understand profit is not equal to cash. So many of us have this mistaken impression that profit is equal to cash. That's one of the basic fallacies in business finance. So let me explain this cash flow statement to you in a very simple terms. I pick up material from dear Nisha at 100 rupees. My processing cost is 10 rupees. Then I sell it to dear Apurva at 110 my processing cost. I sell it to dear Apurva at 130 rupees. So my profit is 130 minus 110, which is 20. Now, the problem that I'm facing is Nisha is saying I need to pay 100 rupees upfront immediately. Immediately. And on the other side, my customer Apurva is saying I'll pay you 130, but I'll pay you after 6 months. What do I do? A typical response will be I'll go and borrow. The moment I borrow, my profit is no longer 20. It's 20 minus interest. And if the interest exceeds 20, a profitable company 6 months back or 1 year back you'll be surprised to know may go bankrupt today. Thank you very much, Nisha. First fallacy that many of us have in mind is profit is equal to cash. No, cash is what you have. It's possible Apurva may not pay me at all. God bless. I'm in serious trouble. Or he may just stretch my payments. So I would like to give you some business dictums here on cash flow statement. And then again, I'll open myself to your questions. So this is done with your permission, right? I'll put the rules here so it will become easier for you all. One, imagine the company to be an artificial person. Just remember these keywords, we did balance sheet and then I started with cash flow. So let me put the cash flow lines here. First thing is very important. Profit is not equal to cash. Please remember this always. Many of us in business say, profit bana. It's okay, but do you have enough cash? Second, cash is king. Third, in business, many of us try to focus on the sales, which is okay. But I think, and the sad part is we feel very proud that we are the owner of a big company, right? Which is right also. You should be proud. There's no two doubts about it. You should feel very good. You're an owner of a big company, but it should not be false pride. Along with that, you should follow some more principles. Sales volume is vanity. It should not be false pride. You need to understand that, okay, I'm a big company, great. But for me, what is more important is our sales turnover is 3,000 crores. Good. But what is your actual profit? Your actual profit is 2.5 crores. Okay. I leave it to you all to judge which is more important, 3,000 crores or 2.5 crores. Okay. So volume is vanity, profit is reality, and most important, cash is sanity. Which is where most of us, when we start analyzing, we start looking at cash. Every time when we say valuation, it is only based on this word, cash flow statement. Simple. Because profit is in books, but what really matters is the cash that you have. And along with that, we do what is called as ratio analysis. So now there are various approaches to ratios, various approaches. I'll take one such approach, which is called as the DuPont, but I'll take a pause here. And it will be a pleasure to take up questions here because I've finished all the three statements, given you a working brief, right? And given you some business principles also. I'll take a pause here. It'll be a pleasure to take up any questions here. company may be in loss. Daman Poly. Okay, good. Sorry, I'm not able to make out who it is, but company may be in loss, but may have good cash reserves and best valuation like Unilever. Yes, okay, right. Uh, you could have companies which have very good point, which have been doing in the past, and some bad years they are able to tide over because of their cash reserves. Point well taken. Any other observations? Any other questions, dear colleagues? P&L with its principles, balance sheet with its principles, cash flow with its principles. Okay. And out of these three, where would I give weightages first? I would give weightage to cash flow first. What is the cash that you have? That is where my weightage would be. And then you can do ratio analysis. Any questions here? Advait, can you just summarize this just for my satisfaction? Just a 2-minute summary. Thank you, Vate.
So the three principles that you talk about balance sheet, one is imagine a firm to be a artificial person, and the source of funds is a liability to an artificial person, and the application asset is the application of funds by the artificial person. The three principles of balance sheet that we spoke about. And about the cash flow, uh, uh, cash is the sanity, profit is the reality, and the turnover, sales volume is actually not a matter. It doesn't matter. Even though you have a high turnover, if your profit is low, it I mean, like I said, it's up to us to judge if we want to continue or not. So profit is not uh, merely that you have uh, earned from the sale of the goods, but actually what cash you have in hand is what that matters. So I feel these are the important takeaways from the points that you shared, sir.
Absolutely right, Vijay. Just absolutely right. Thank you. Just couple of clarifications here. One, some people say it absolutely, it's your call, that volume is vanity, profit is sanity, cash is reality. So they interchange that words. That's again your call. I've seen right some esteemed faculties do that. You could do that. As long as you know cash flow is important, I'm okay. Right. Second thing is, Karambir made a very good point, that of all these three, it is cash flow. But there are some cases where, maybe volume can be of great significance. So let me just take a 1-minute detour here. So for example, Flipkart, they were told very clearly, keep selling at a loss also, right? Because we want volume, we want a market share. And who was saying that? SoftBank was saying that, the investor, because they were very clear that once we have sizable market share, then we can either go and sell Flipkart to Amazon or sell it to Walmart. So there the game set was something else. It's a different mind paradigm, which is called as a build to sell, right? Loss mein bhi rahega to chalega, make it a big player, so that finally you can sell it right to somebody else. I personally, I'm not sure it's a good strategy to work on. At least I would not advise that to startups, right? Unless you are deeply funded, right? You're funded by investors with deep pockets and long hands. That means deep pockets means they have the ability to pay and fund you, and long hands is they have the willingness to also do it. So many a times investors initially they are happy, then finally they say no, why throw good money after bad money? Then the project goes unstuck. You could look at so many food delivery companies around us which have closed down. After some time, investors came back saying, no, why should we keep funding these losses, right? Having said that, I think Karambir did a great job. I will now go to DuPont analysis. What is DuPont saying? Okay, what is DuPont? So three financial statements. See how quickly we did it, keeping it so simple, right? Now, what is DuPont saying? DuPont is saying that in DuPont analysis, by the way, DuPont is a company for which it was analyzed. This analysis was done first. That is why that name stuck, DuPont analysis. And DuPont is a company which has been formed by acquiring various firms. So they came back and said that, business analysts said that, what is the most important thing, ratio for a company? Like all of you are aware now, cash flow is the most important statement. And thank you, Chandra Prakash ji, that I'm very clear. Profit is not equal to cash. Cash is king. What is that most important ratio? That most important ratio is ROE, return on equity. So from here, if you get this right, you can apply this to your businesses. Return on equity. So I'll be just showing you this entire thing here. So what is return on equity? In this set of analysis, right, in this set of analysis, return on equity basically means what? It means this, PAT divided by shareholders' funds. PAT is profit after tax, which is for the shareholders. Divided by equity is shareholders' funds. So what is the most important? Chandra Prakash ji is doing business, Karamveer is doing business, right? Abhishek is doing business. So उनके लिए सबसे important क्या है? Return on equity. So return on equity is nothing but profit after tax divided by shareholders' funds. That was broken up into three parts, which is PAT by sales, sales by total assets, and total assets by net worth. Net worth basically means shareholders' funds. Okay, net worth basically means shareholders' funds. That's the other name for shareholders' funds. If you look at this, all of you all, just watch. PAT by sales, sales get cancelled. Total assets here and total assets here get cancelled. Okay, what remains is nothing but PAT divided by shareholders' funds. PAT divided by shareholders' funds. So actually this formula is the same. The formula is the same, except that it is broken up into three parts. Why is it broken up into three parts? And try this, this really works. So this first part is profitability. How can you improve return on equity? By improving profitability. How can you improve profitability? Now look at all the lectures that we had. Managing price, increasing price, Rajesh Srivastava sir, so many people, I can't keep naming all of them, right? Parimal sir, business is money. Across the line, we had people who came and talked about pricing mechanisms, right? We had marketing professors also coming and talking. You can manage your variable costs. Try and reduce variable cost per unit. Wonderful lecture by Professor Jay Shankar. Or you can simply manage your fixed costs, reduce your fixed costs. I think one of the best was Hariharan sir's, right? When he talked about managing fixed costs. And of course then, right, Moradian sir coming and talking about product customer mix. Focus on your more profitable products. I'm trying to get you all this synopsis here, right? All these videos are there, except possibly a couple of them, right? Focus on the more profitable products, focus on the more profitable customers. If you can do that, automatically profitability goes up. For those who missed some of these lectures, please view it, because right then you will understand right the entire philosophy of business finance, right? So price, variable costs, fixed costs, and product customer mix. Now, if you can do that, great. Who can do that? This can be done by the salesperson. This can be done by the production person. This can be done by the admin person. The other part of it, okay, is asset efficiency. Now, if you are going to talk about to a plant manager, apart from managing fixed costs in the plant, what else can you do better? Asset utilization. If you can keep minimum turnaround time. Please remember the airport example. How much time does it require to check in and the actual waiting time there? I think that's the most best example that has been ever given. Can you reduce turnaround time? Can you increase efficiency of usage of your assets? Then things work out extremely well. So here we have managing output, increasing output with the same facilities. Many a times, you know, when we keep doing well, we keep adding new machines, and then you have a problem because your output is not keeping commensurate with the increase in capacity. And that's what happens with many companies. When they are small, they do extremely well. But when they start expanding, they are not able to generate the same productivity. Having said that, finally it is leverage. This is a finance manager decision while talking to his CEO. Do you want to take debt? See, in good times, when you take debt, right, and you are able to pay the interest, it's actually good. But I cannot say that, either ways, either being zero debt or taking high debt is good or bad. It depends on the philosophy. For me, it's very simple. If you can service debt even in challenging times, then you can take debt, right? But then you should be able to visualize whether you can service it even during challenging times. Many a times, many of us are so overtly optimistic when we take loans, we don't realize that life is not a straight line. There are going to be turns somewhere, and your assumptions are going to be invalid. And most assumptions are based on the past. I have a great job. My salary will continue, so I can have a better lifestyle. So let me buy a bigger house. And I made real good profits for 2 years. So I think I can afford 3 more machines. Let me buy it. Let me put a state-of-the-art plant. In 2 साल बनाया तो next 4 साल we will go to make real good profits. This is where the assumption goes wrong, which is where for debt, a very important line that I always keep saying is do what is called as sensitivity analysis. Even before you take debt, please do that. I think that's one of the best things that a finance consultant can tell you. Do sensitivity analysis always. What is sensitivity analysis? What if your assumptions go wrong? Can you service your debt? I think I'll put this in simple terms. Can this debt be serviced even in the worst of times? So if you take all these three, you will see that return on equity is a function of profitability. Higher the profitability, better will be the ROE. Higher the asset efficiency, if you're able to utilize the assets well. And finally, it is a function of leverage. But this is where leverage can make or break. In good times, it can take your company up, but if you're not able to service it, it can just kill you also. That is where people say these two are very simple to manage. This you should be extra capital. And that's why this has to be a decision which has to be taken with due caution. I'll take a pause here. And now that I've introduced ROE, I'd like to end by showing you an application of ROE. But before that, if there are any questions? Absolutely right. Yes, of course, how could I forget? I'm sorry. Karamveer, thank you. In fact, thanks to all of you all, most of you have attended all the classes. Those who have not, it is there. I think Vinodha has possibly come, Gani also, almost all the classes. Nikita ma'am also. Karamveer has been there because he's telling me that, this is where ZPB also matters. Absolutely. Zero-based budgeting also matters. Absolutely. And here is the golden line from Nikita again. Never divert working capital for long-term capital expenditure. Completely agree. And normally what people do is completely agree. What normally people do is, they say money is money now. So they divert a short-term fund for long-term use. Working capital loan liya, or we purchase machinery. That working capital loan has to be serviced. Now what has happened is that your machine project is going to be coming on stream after 2 years, 3 years. And for 2-3 years, then right, you have to service that working capital loan. And second, what about your existing plan? How are you going to fund the working capital? Absolutely agree, ma'am. Ma'am has put it here. It is a debt warrant. Especially, this is called as diversion of funds. Short-term fund, if you divert to long-term use, it is definitely right, a killer, as ma'am says. Absolutely. Right. Then you're going to get into what is called as incipient sickness. So debt also, if you take it, it cannot be taken in such a way that, right, you are not going to be prudent about it. Did you say you want to buy a machine? Then take a term loan. No. What do you say? You need a working capital. Then take a CC or OD. As simple as that. Any questions, dear colleagues? Any questions on this? Okay, so I'll just show you the application for this entire thing. So once again, 3 statements covered, the business principles covered, and one way of looking at ratios covered, which is called as DuPont ratio, DuPont analysis, okay, return on equity. And now we are closing with using this for a company that we did. So the company that we did, this was for a company known as Welspun. When we did this, and this was again respected Parimal sir, right, who came in and said, this is a wonderful way of, so this is the example, right? This is okay, right? Yeah. This is the example that I said, ROE will keep going up if you improve everything, if you improve efficiency, if you improve asset utilization, and finally leverage works in your favor. Colleagues, I think what is more important for us is when I close today is to tell you that efficiency is good enough, but effectiveness is the most important thing. So efficiency is, yeah, you've taken a decision and then you are trying to set it right. But effectiveness is questioning whether you've taken the right decision in the first place. So effectiveness is also called as doing the right things. Are you doing the right things in the first place? So this company, Welspun, we just did an analysis. They were into pipes. And Welspun textiles, sorry, they were into textiles. And then they decided to get into manufacturing of pipes also. So let's see how effective that decision was. Okay. So if you look at their textiles over a period of time, their return on equity actually came down from 10 to 8, then went up to 10 and then 5. So it is not very, very encouraging. Actually, if you see 10 to 5, it has decreased. But during the same time, again, this is segmental analysis. This management somewhere around this period had taken a decision to move into pipes also. So many shareholders questioned it, saying that how can a textile company move into pipes? This is not fair. And we have very good researchers who came back and said this defeats what Harvard says as the theory of core competency. Theory of core competency says do what you're doing best. So this company should not have gone into pipes. They should have gone into backward integration into yarn and other things and other things. But let's see what is this about this company. When they went to pipes, the first year, their return on equity was 12%. Next year was also 12%. Then the next 2 years, it jumped to 22%. What if this company would have only focused on textiles? What was the saving grace for this company is very much evident from this DuPont analysis. So what is DuPont analysis indicating here is that the pipe division, starting the pipe division was an extremely effective decision, which leads me to the last comment, and then it will be a pleasure to take up your questions. Please understand, management consultants typically, right, would come back and give their theory, which is right also, they should. Harvard would put in their own way of looking at things, which is right, because they will go with their empirical data. But please understand, for a businessman, it makes sense to go by their own gut feel and then substantiate that with Excel numbers. For example, if you realize today, companies which have diversified away and kept themselves as a diversified group, right? Imagine if there's a company which would have only focused on tourism and hotel, they would have been in deep trouble today. If they would have moved to something else, right, which is not that affected by pandemic, then they would have been safe today. So I personally believe that it is the businessman's gut feel which really matters, but that gut feel should be validated by numbers. And when you say validated by numbers, he should sit down and look at whether his project is viable, which gives me one last question for today, right? What is the difference between feasibility and viability? Anybody? Difference between feasibility and viability? Anybody would like to come in?
Viability is long term.
Absolutely, Dr. Vinod Nair. You have been a pleasure, Nair, sir. Absolutely. Feasibility is can it be done? Viability is can it be profitably done? Absolutely right, sir. Viability is going to look at it in the longer term basis. I've been talking to some of you and I really feel good, because you come back saying, sir, I have an idea which when I execute now, I will ensure that it stays for the long term. It's going to generate cash flows for the long term. Feasibilities, can it be done? Viabilities, can it be done profitably? Feasibility says, dear Gani, I was waiting for this. That's why I kept my eye on the chat. He's like a sword. Absolutely. Viability is when you convert it into numbers and sit back and say, right, is this matching? Is my gut feel is also shown in numbers? Then from there, you need to do sensitivity analysis. Unfortunately, this pandemic has thrown upon a situation which is called as a black swan event. We cannot sensitize ourselves to black swan events. Okay, that is impossible. But at least the normal things which can go wrong, if we could visualize and put it down in the Excel sheet, that things become easier. Having said that, I had an agenda today to take you all through financial statements and DuPont, and I got some very good inputs from all of you. It'd be a pleasure if there are any further questions from you, dear colleagues, before I have one final announcement from my side. Any questions, any comments, any notings, please. Any comments, any notings. P&L, balance sheet, cash flow, business principles, DuPont, segmental analysis, right? So you could see the coverage, and believe me, right, all that I kept doing is I kept appealing to logic, as simple as that. Any questions, anything that you would like to ask? I take a pause for 1 minute. Anything, any noting also. Some very good notings like ZBB, right? Diversion of working. That was, I think, the best classic. And I've seen that repeatedly. And, Nikita ma'am, what people say, paisa hai na? Arey, paisa nahi, atak jaoge aage jaake, pakka atak jaoge. Nahi sir, lekin kya hai, machine aa gaya tha, to uska paisa dena tha. And, we didn't know what to do. Bank was delaying. See, I agree. And being a promoter in execution is one of the toughest jobs. I agree. But, these are the guiding principles of finance. So my job as your well-wisher is to caution, is all I can say. Yeah, short-term divert kiya, but then immediately if you're able to rotate it, that's okay. But normally hota nahi beta aisa. Ek baar hota na, then the delay starts killing your project. That is why strictly avoidable. Exceptionally, if you it's a very short-term thing, just for 10 days, 20 days, right? It's okay. But again, I repeat, it's strictly avoidable. This diversion of short-term working capital to capital expenditure, definitely avoidable. Okay. Fine, colleagues. Thank you very, very much. This brings me to the end of this season. I will take a pause now. We'll take a pause. When I'm saying take a pause, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we'll take a pause. Sunday sessions will continue for some more time. And then I'll come back with one more plan for all of you. Right? All except for some sessions by respected professors. Most of the sessions are there on YouTube and in Mantras. Last week we couldn't. Thanks Abhishek for bringing that to my notice. Abhishek Biani called me and mentioned that. But I think by next week we will be uploading those videos also. Right? The last pending videos that we have not been uploading. We have not been able to upload. That will be done. As I repeat, it's been a real honor to take this from one level to another level. Right, the current Hunger Collective, Gani, thanks again. Nisha, thank you. The current amount is not important. Number of people that we've been able to serve through Hunger Collective is now around 2 lakhs. Is around 2 lakhs. Okay, and I think that's a great. I should thank all of you all for that. I never imagined that we would go and touch 2 lakh people, and each one of you, Vinod sir. Right, Shanti ma'am here, Karamveer here, Nisha Vite, Nikita ma'am, she's trying something which I could not even think about. Chandra Prakash ji, right, Apurva, all of you, Rohan, Gani, thanks again. Amit, Rajesh, Advait, Bhavik again, thanks. Vinod sir, as I said, Sunday we will continue. Monday, Wednesday, Friday, there'll be a pause. And again, I'll come back with an announcement. Sir, any closing comments from you? Sir, I know today I'm not even told you, but I'm just going verbatim. Okay. Sir, you have to unmute yourself, sir.
I never thought this is the end of the season. Actually, I had a very important board meeting, But I said, since I saw you, I thought I should be here. Otherwise, if it was not you, I would have actually watched the Facebook. But it was very important that I came, since it is the end of the season. So I will tell you something. This COVID probably was the time, including the one which I conducted. It was the most actually academically oriented time after I had left medical college. That 46 sessions along with this thing, plus there were a few others. I mean, phenomenal learning on things which I never knew. I mean, so it was a great thing. I told many people about this. This COVID has been so good to me in this way, because otherwise I would have never ever learned such things. Thank you so much. Whether I will use it or not, that is an entirely different thing. But it has been a great experience. What you have been doing was so, what do you call, it was for nothing else. It's dissemination of knowledge and probably helping this Hunger Collective, Hunger Collective concept. It was so good. Thank you so much. I'm so happy that I have actually come. I never missed this session. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Means a lot, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Means a lot. Thank you. Thank you, all of you. Right. As doctor was saying, right, this application will come once you internalize things and know what has happened. As I would say the person who has learned the most is me, because I sat through most of the sessions. But a couple of them, I should confess, I could not because of some emergency, right? But I sat through and I learned the most. Beyond this, again, this is not the end of the association. This is just part one, which ends, right? Part two would start. Dharma sir has some great ideas. Vinod sir, Gani is going to be a big thing in that, right? We will be coming back to you, right? I can tell you one thing, dear colleagues, this has been a great thing for me also. I always felt I need to do something for education and for the poor. Both this could happen during these times. I should thank each one of you. Thank you again. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
We
much.
meet on Sunday. We meet on Sunday. Sunday sessions are on.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Good night. Good night, all.
Good night.